Hi, my name's Sian and I write really small stories. Sometimes I write them to send to my friends to cheer them up. Sometimes I write them just to get ideas out of my head. I made this video to show you some of the ways that I come up with stories and some of the different ways that you can send them, present them, write them, draw them, dance them, whatever suits you. You don't need to be good at spelling or grammar to create stories. You just have to have a little bit of imagination, which I know you do. So, relax, enjoy the video, and welcome to Small Rainbows. I usually start my stories by thinking about characters, the people who are in them. This can take a little bit of thinking and quite a lot of posing to really get my head in the game. Writing a short story is quite often just spending a few moments with a person who you've made up. So I like to start by doing some poses and pulling some faces and thinking about why people feel different ways. Why is this person angry? Maybe it's something that seems really silly, like they went to the shop and there weren't the sweets that they wanted, but then we find out in the next sentence that those sweets are really important and are going to save their hedgehog. Can you make up a few sentences about why someone's feeling sad, silly, or maybe why they're just having a really terrible day that could turn out to be a very funny short story to send your friends? Try and write down or doodle your ideas for characters. Even if you don't use them in that story, they could be handy in the future. Once you think you've got an idea for your character and you've got an idea of how you're feeling, why don't you try flipping it? I use these circles where I put different emotions or different ways of feeling or being on them. Then give it a spin and see where it ends up. It can really change how you're thinking about the story. So maybe I had an idea about someone who was very confidently walking off on an adventure, but then I spin the wheel and it turns out actually they're going a bit more slowly or they're a bit nervous. You can make more complicated wheels and add different things on. What happens if you think you've got a sweet old lady telling a story to her grandson and it turns out she's actually quite mean? Doing this kind of thing can be great for making your short stories have something unexpected happen, even in just a few sentences. I once wrote a story about an old man looking at a horse in a field. Everyone in the village thought it was so sweet that he would go every day to watch the horses and thought it was such a lovely part of their village life. But then when someone talks to him, you realise he's just watching the horses because he really hates them because one of them kicked him once, and he's just showing off that he can walk freely and the horse is stuck in the field. Switching things around by using these spinny circles can be a good way of making sure that you keep things interesting, surprise yourself, and surprise the person listening to your story. And then, of course, there's the ways you can tell your story. You can dance your story. You can act your story. You can scribble your story. You can write your story down. I quite often write my stories on postcards or do little drawings about them and then send them to people. It's a nice way of staying in touch and is a nice way of making sure the stories have a little life in the hands of someone else. Whichever way you tell your stories, thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks to Imaginate for supporting it, and sign up to our newsletter where you'll get tiny stories every day at tinyletter.com/small rainbows.